Embark on a cosmic journey as we reimagine Deku's story with a twist. Join us in exploring the rise of Izumi, the unseen hero across galaxies. Midoriya Izumi, who recently attained the rank of Jedi Knight, found herself inside a fighter ship, using a hyperdrive ring to travel at the speed of light. She couldn't believe it, didn't believe it, couldn't understand it. Why? Why did her clones betray her and her master? She didn't even know where she was going. One moment, they had been on Kuriva, facing the typical separatist droids, and the next moment, they were up against the Umbarans. It was a trap to kill them, and they fell right into it. Then, their clone Captain Drac answered a call, and then they killed her master from behind. She let out a scream when she saw the woman who brought her into the Jedi Order die and released a force wave that sent allies and enemies flying. She didn't know who to trust. She didn't understand why they would kill her master, didn't understand why they were betraying her. But she didn't care, she only knew she had to survive and escape any separatist system, so she used the Force and seized the gravel around her and used it as weapons against allies and enemies. She wielded a separatist blaster and fired at anything that moved as she ran without a clear direction. She spent several days on Kuriva, escaping, attacking anything that moved, creating spears with branches, cutting down trees with the powers of the Force, whether to strike clones, Umbarans, and Kurivans, or to hunt animals and feed herself. Her chance to escape came when she accidentally started a forest fire, but when she knew that hundreds of clones were still looking for her and when former Chancellor Palpatine proclaimed himself Emperor, she used the fire and the flames to turn Kuriva into a living hell, and while everyone was busy with the flames, she boarded her master's ship and tried to flee. But she was discovered, the ship was shot, and the coordinates of her journey changed. She ended up landing on a planet in the Outer Rim, approached a city, stole money, stole separatist credits, only to discover the existence of Imperial credits, which were beginning to be known, so she stole them and made the owner of a shop forget she ever entered. Only the wild space and unknown regions remained. She had to flee the galaxy. She scavenged for quite some time, raiding traveler ships, caring for nothing else, but in the midst of her adventures in the Outer Rim, she would encounter a surviving Jedi. After explaining their situations to each other, the Jedi took her to the most secluded place in that city they were in the middle of Agamar, and showed her a holocron that her master had found. It was the master of the Jedi Order, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I am Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. I regret to inform you that both our Jedi Order and the Republic have fallen. Do not return to the temple, that time is past. We will all be challenged, our trust, our faith, our friendships, but we must persevere. And in time, a new hope will emerge. May the Force be with you. Izumi continued her journey from one star system to another until she picked up a signal her master used to use and came across an Imperial destroyer, which she boarded, finding a ship covered in dust, but otherwise in perfect condition. A droid approached her and showed her a hologram. You've never believed in what you can't see, and you've never believed that I had visions, have you, Izumi? But if you have found this ship, if you have come across this droid, then the physical and scientific evidence will have to be enough for you. Inside the ship, there were countless Jedi documents, Sith documents, unlocked Sith and Jedi holocrons, a manual of Jedi paths and another of the Force paths of different cultures, clothes, hundreds of parts for weapons plus lightsabers, and at least a dozen kyber crystals, hundreds of pieces of scrap lying around. Her master knew how much she loved to create things. Her master once compared her to an ancient Sith Lord named Darth Monin, as they were both craftsmen, and although the term was no longer used, as it disappeared after the Old Republic, her master named her a Jedi artisan. Izumi boarded that modified fighter ship, took the hyperdrive ring, and left the ship, heading towards an unknown destination, trusting the autopilot and the preset coordinates in the ship. Slowly and unknowingly, a gas intended to put her to rest seeped into her pores, and she rested. She didn't remember it, but she belonged to the planet Earth, in a galaxy far, far away. She didn't remember that a doctor told her she lacked a kosei, that she had the phalange of the pinky finger, so she would never have any of the amazing powers with which humans were born on planet Earth today. Emitter powers, to shoot fire from your hands, transformers, to be able to make your arms turn into tentacles, or mutants, to have several arms. More than 90% of humans on the face of the Earth will have one of the three classifications of kosei, also called quirks, and the remaining 10% will not have any type of kosei. When these quirk users appeared, normality was destroyed. Quirk users were persecuted, and many of them turned into villains. Illegal heroes emerged until they were praised themselves, and a series of acts and teamwork zones were established with the police and the army before they were formally recognized as heroes. These same heroes would request the foundation of academies for young people who wanted to be heroes, and the only requirement was that they were young people from 15 years old, with the number of years varying in each country until students were considered ready to work as professional heroes. 1 year after Izumi was told she lacked a quirk, she began to be humiliated, both by her elementary school peers and her teachers, but she dreamed of becoming a hero, just like Japan's greatest hero, the hero who rejected the Peace Prize twice and only dedicated himself to being who he was and what he was. All Might. The symbol of peace. But without a quirk, this was impossible. She was still 4 years old when a man with pink skin and white spikes on his forearms took her hostage. Someone raised the alarm, and several heroes appeared to save her, but the villain stomped on the ground, and hundreds of spikes appeared, preventing those heroes who approached from being attacked by the spikes. Minutes, hours passed, none of the heroes could help, and they only argued that they should wait for a hero with a more suitable quirk to come, until a woman dressed in a brown robe extended her hand, and the villain froze completely. "You will release the girl and surrender to the authorities." "I will release the girl and surrender to the authorities," the villain repeated, releasing the beautiful little girl with curly green hair, while the heroes arrested him. A woman with green hair approached the woman. "Thank you," the mother said to her heroine. "Thank you very much for saving my daughter." "You're welcome," said the woman, looking to her right and finding a sandwich restaurant. "Would you like to eat something after this situation?" Mother and daughter nodded and followed the woman. As they were about to enter, the woman waved her hand, and the people handed over the money and took their food. "Is your quirk mind control?" asked the girl, excited. The woman gave her a smile. "My name is Kirna Hash. I'm not a quirk user. What I have used is one of the many powers of the Force. The human body has various types of microorganisms, and these abilities are shared by many people where I come from and are granted by the midi-chlorians: telekinesis, hypnosis, electrokinesis, healing, sensory deprivation, among many others. I come from a very distant place called the Galactic Republic. We, the Jedi Order, defend and maintain peace in the galaxy, but sometimes, we have to take up arms." It was the first time Inko and Izumi had seen a lightsaber. A pink lightsaber. It represents love and compassion. "If you wish, little Izumi, you can come with me and be a hero to many people, as my abilities can be taught with patience and perseverance." "Go with her, Izumi-chan," said her smiling mother, stroking her face, tears streaming down the green-haired girl's face. "Maybe this is why you were born without a quirk. The Force has always been your destiny. To be a Jedi. Someday." Tears filled the green-haired girl's eyes. "I promise I'll come back." She arrived there, with the Jedi initiates of the Wolf Clan and the Jedi Council, accepting that she would be trained by Master Kirna when she finished her initiate training and began as a Padawan. The first thing was training with training lightsabers, which only burned, and after 15 months and a year, she traveled to a distant planet called Ilum. Izumi opened her eyes, listening to a relentless voice coming from the computer, an installed and prepared AI, to give her the coordinates: beyond the galaxy, 3 million light-years away, entering the solar system, destination, planet Earth, country, Japan, approaching a planet very similar to Naboo, perhaps to Konyadona, possibly Scarif, or perhaps Yavin 4. She looked at the navigation circuits, and her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Midoriya Izumi landed her ship in a forest and glanced at one of her lightsabers, a tear rolling down her cheek. Everything she had known, everything she had fought for, was gone. The Republic, along with its guardians, the Jedi, was now history. She clenched one of her lightsabers tightly, her mind drifting back to the memory on Ilum, paying little attention to the forest around her or the building a few meters away. Memory. In a distant past, Izuku was part of the Pelican clan, along with 4 other children, and they were taken to the planet Ilum, the holiest place for the Jedi Order. Guided to an icy planet, they entered a cave covered with blocks that they, the members of the Pelican clan, removed with the Force. Master Yoda was waiting for them inside the cave. "The Force is a Jedi's ally," said the small green alien with long horizontal ears. "Great responsibility it brings. Protect others, as a Jedi does." Master Yoda's lightsaber emerged from his robes and activated on its own. "Your own lightsaber, you will create. But first, each must extract their own kyber crystal. The heart of the lightsaber, the crystal is concentrated force of the Jedi it holds." Using the Force, Master Yoda opened a small stone door high on the wall, allowing sunlight to enter and illuminate a crystal, which he manipulated to reflect its light onto a plate, turning ice into water. "If Jedi you wish to be, into the crystal cave you must go. Trust in yourselves, trust in others, and success you will find. When you find your crystal, do not linger. The door will freeze shut at nightfall, impossible for me to open. How will we know which crystal is ours? Asked a Ithorian girl named Ra, using hand gestures. Only you will know in your hearts which crystal calls to you, said Master Yoda. They all entered the cave, finding themselves in a long corridor with 9 doors. Using the Force, they chose a door and followed the path guided by the Force to their Kyber crystal. Ra and Izumi reached a ledge, and in the distance, something was shining, but Ra said she couldn't see anything. Placing a hand on her shoulder, the Ithorian assured her that it was her crystal, not hers, and that's why Izumi could see it and she couldn't. Ra hugged her and went off to find her own crystal, while Izumi descended icy stairs that seemed to crack. Or perhaps it was just her imagination. She decided to hurry and ran, only to slip and have to use the Force to levitate. She descended to the crystal, but it was very difficult, and several times she almost fell. How stupid, thought the green-haired girl, angry with herself, I should have used those ice stairs. She lost concentration, fell from a great height, but landed on a large pile of snow. Wow, that didn't hurt. She looked around, slowly adjusting to the darkness of the area, but the crystal gleamed silver. She approached slowly, only to discover that she had very little space to walk and the rest was an even bigger void. She reached the ice formation that had trapped the crystal, grabbed it, felt it, the Force within the crystal, and set out to leave. Found your crystal, have you? Asked Master Yoda, and Izuku blushed, showing him the ice rectangle. Master Yoda used the Force, melting the ice and revealing. 2 Kyber crystals have chosen you. A user of the Jarkai style, your destiny seems to be. Izumi nearly died of worry. The door was a third of the way closed again, but all her companions returned, crawling, celebrating when Master Yoda confirmed that they all found authentic Kyber crystals and the last of them, swept across the floor, almost with the ice wall, decapitating it. You must care for your Kyber crystals, we must head to the temple, young Jedi. They boarded the ship they traveled to Ilum in and went to a secondary ship, where they were left waiting for many minutes. Everyone gather around. You have successfully completed the gathering and found your crystals. Place the crystals on the table, the lesson begins now. A droid entered. I am Master Huyang. From the battles of Rash Fawn to the pacification of Parlik, and our own clone wars, the lightsaber is a Jedi's true ally. But how does it work? Yes, you have brought me the crystals, but they are useless unless you give them life. Do you know how to awaken the Force within the crystal? No? Then I suggest you listen and learn until you think of a question this droid cannot answer. The droid pressed a button, and many lightsaber holograms appeared. What will you choose? Asked the droid. A simple hilt? Something more elaborate? Cartesian whale inlays? It's time to begin. Focus, what will make you strong in battle and humble in battle? He extracted various lightsaber parts from a compartment, assembling one before the youngling's eyes. Before you leave this ship, I must ensure you have what is necessary to build your lightsabers and the knowledge to do so. Let's begin. We have much to do. Following the holographic diagram, they constructed their lightsabers slowly, methodically, patiently. They didn't mind if it took 2 or 3 hours to ensure it was well built. Good job, young lady. 2 perfectly made lightsabers with green and black gemstone inlays. Excellent. End of memory. She was lost in her memories, but she was not oblivious to her surroundings or the emotions flooding her mind. That was the most important lesson in war, and she had participated in the Clone War. She looked beyond herself and saw a dome. Emotions emanated from there. She made her ship invisible and ran to see if she could help in any way. Upon entering, she found several of those with intentions to harm unconscious on the ground, several kids her age fighting them. They were scared, but there was bravery in their actions. More than enough for her. She approached and saw a man with long hair, wearing yellow goggles or something like that, a black long-sleeved shirt, some kind of extra scarf, and black pants, whose elbow was grabbed by a gray-haired man, whose hand was severed on his face, and other severed hands gripped his arms, torso, and legs. She heard the second man speak. Keeping you running back and forth makes it harder to see it, but there's a moment when your hair falls over your eyes. Every time you remove a kosei, and at short intervals. The man with black hair screamed in pain. Don't brag more than you can handle, erase your head. The man with blue hair received a blow to the face. 2 men went to attack him but were sent flying against the light blue-haired man. What? Who? Asked a boy with black hair, ribbons coming out of his elbows, who had several villains on the ground. Who is he? Have reinforcements arrived? Asked a girl with black hair and a high ponytail, a lock over her right eye, holding a bow staff and wearing a low-cut red shirt, shorts, and completing her outfit with a book. Reinforcements? Asked the green-haired girl entering with her hood on. Yes. The ones you were expecting? Not exactly. She joined the battle, using hand-to-hand combat against the villains, dodging them and causing them to injure or kill with their own Kosais. She's defeating them all, shouted a boy with spherical, violet hair. It's amazing how she attacks them with just martial arts, said the same girl with black hair, who only her female instinct told her was a woman. She began searching for someone. Does anyone know where Ojiro is? What kind of Kosei does that guy have? Asked a man, transforming his arms into magma whips and launching his arms against Izumi, only for his whips to stop in the air. Telekinesis? He asked. Izumi used telekinesis with one hand and absorbed the fire from the man, making him scream in pain. Another man with claws instead of hands lunged at her, and a third with a diamond-wrapped body also launched himself at her. Izumi drew one of her lightsabers and activated it, igniting its forest green plasma blade, sending a circular cut, slicing her enemies and cauterizing the wounds. I don't think so, she said, before raising her right arm, closing her eyes. Leave now. The leader, the man with many hands on his body, watched as more than 56% of his men left like zombies in a line from the USJ. Mind control Kosei? Asked the blue-haired one, clenching his fists, as he watched a girl with green hair, big eyes, and frog-like features. I should take this opportunity to tear apart the symbol of peace's pride. The girl closed her eyes, scared. But nothing happened, her enemy stood still, although trembling slightly. He soon grabbed his throat, unable to breathe. What? Is this? Telekinesis? Is it? Nomu? The beast with black ink-like skin, red scars, massive size, metal beak, and beige pants, roared and lunged at the green-haired girl. The villain couldn't scream when he was yanked by the force's telekinesis and placed in front of her like a human shield. The man opened his eyes. And no. Nomu. The villain took a blow to the chest, spitting blood onto the mask on his face, while touching the villain with all 5 fingers of both hands, and he screamed as his skin began to crack and fall off. The man approached him and touched his head. Your grandmother. So it was this heroine, huh? And your father hated her, began the girl, with information she found in the man's head, now badly wounded and spitting blood, more and more, from the blow his pet had given him. Stress triggered your Kosei, decay. You killed your family, and then? That all for one guy found you, huh? Shimura Tenko. Telekinesis and telepathy? Asked the villain, barely enduring the pain from the blow. It's more complex than that, Shimura Tenko-kun, assured the girl, before pushing him with the force, sending him towards Nomu, who, despite the impact nullification, still received a powerful blow, making him roar, then grabbing his own master by the leg, breaking his tibia and fibula, making him scream and sending him flying. She lunged at Nomu and touched his head, seeing his memories, a sad smile appeared on her face. Once, you were an unemployed man, you had many children and stole just to put food on your table. That all for one and Shimura Tenko, promised you power and strength, took you to that mad scientist, and turned you into this, giving you all these Kosais. She closed her eyes, concentrated, entered not only his head but his DNA chain and began to remove one by one the Kosais implanted in him. They all watched as the monster grew smaller, thinner, his skin became human, a skull appeared, mustard yellow hair, they didn't see it, but they heard the metal beak fall to the ground with a loud sound, leaving a crater. You're healed, she affirmed, breathing heavily and falling before the man, who passed out. Tokuhashi Senko. The door exploded, and she flew out, exhausted after healing Nomu. A man with blonde hair, muscular, in a business suit appeared. There's nothing to fear. Because I have arrived. And everyone recognized the cowboy with a gas mask entering the place. Many people were with him. Among them, a boy with blue hair and heavier white armor than the clones entered through the door. I, Tenya Ida, have returned with our masters as reinforcements. The green-haired, frog-like girl pointed to the monk-dressed girl, who was unconscious, next to, what the masters assumed, a villain. She appeared and saved us. The girl defeated all of them, by herself, said a black-haired girl, Yaoyorozu Momo, pointing to the villains on the ground. We have been cornered, and you are unharmed. The formidable league of villains. We will be laughed at, seeing themselves surrounded. Shigaraki Tomura and a misty figure tried to escape, but the cowboy hero shot his 2 guns and directed the bullets where he wanted, injuring the hand man and the other with a misty black face with bright yellow eyes. Both escaped with a teleportation deformation Kosei. Who is she? Asked a hero with gray hair, lower teeth like fangs, dressed in a red and black spandex suit. The hero Vlad King and homeroom teacher of Class 1B. She saved us all, Yaoyorozu Momo, student of Class 1A, rushed to say. She was amazing, said a red-haired boy, still surprised by the unconscious girl, who was carried by one of the teachers. She took them all down. She has telekinesis, she's very good at martial arts, and she has a rare pair of lightsabers. The day of the attack was just the beginning of what was to come. But they, the students of Class 1A of the UA Hero Academy, didn't know it. But what the hell? Growled the cowboy hero, snipe. They came ostentatiously, and yet, we let them escape, said the blonde-haired hero defying gravity and dressed like a rocker, present Mike. The police arrived, and with them came the ambulances, 17, 18, 19. Everyone's unharmed, said Inspector Na. Izumi Midoriya was taken with the UA students on the same bus they used to come to USJ. Now they were heading to the academy, where they had information for the Jedi and vice versa. I always say what's on my mind. I'm Asui Tsuyu, said the other girl with green hair, but hers was long, so long that she tied it up in a bun. She had big round eyes and her facial features resembled those of a frog. You used many abilities, Midoriya-san. What exactly is your kosei? We appreciate your help. It was very manly how you came in and saved us from the large number of villains. Seriously, said a boy with spiky red hair. I'm Kirishima Eijiro. Many years ago, they declared me a Mukasei, which astonished everyone. I was bullied at school, and at one point, maybe when I was 6 years old, I was saved by a woman named Kirna. She spoke to my mother about her. Order of Samurai monks, they, and I, obviously, are users of something called the Force. She recalled the words of Obi-Wan Kenobi when he was instructing his former battlefield companion, Anakin Skywalker. It is an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, and binds the galaxy together. It is a realm that almost no one has heard of. Oh come on, this thing you call the Force isn't something you do every day, said a boy with balls on his head. Minoru Mineta, nice to meet you. I've seen people with telekinesis koseis, and yours is very different. Your fighting style, your weapon, you don't seem to be from this planet. Izumi couldn't help but laugh, and everyone knew Mineta hit the nail on the head. Izumi wasn't from Earth. The galaxy I come from is about 2.5 million light-years away from ours. Some weeks or maybe months ago, I'm not sure. You see, I was born on this planet, and one day, I met a woman who had these same abilities. She was a member of a monastic organization called the Jedi Order and took me to be trained in the Galactic Republic, with the Jedi. I became a member of a group of young children who would learn to use this thing called the Force. This energy field is divided into 4 aspects: the light side, the dark side, the unifying force, and the living force. The first 2 aspects concern the moral compass of the Force in its various manifestations. The light side of the Force is the facet aligned with good, benevolence, and healing, while the dark side of the Force is the element aligned with fear, hatred, aggression, and evil. The next 2 aspects were defined by the prominent Jedi philosophies, the monastic organization Samurai, to which I belonged. The unifying force essentially encompassed space and time in its entirety. The living force dealt with the energy of living things. For some Jedi, the Force was life, and life was the Force. Although the Force was classified in this way, there were no specific abilities or powers that were only usable by a follower of a different path of the Force. The Force exists partly within the life forms that use it, drawing energy from their emotions. She took a breath before continuing to speak. Although the Force was believed to flow through every living being, it could only be tapped into by a minority of beings described as Force sensitive. This Force sensitivity is attributed to different causes by different views. Force sensitivity is attributed to a high quantity of internal microorganisms called midichlorians found in the blood of Force-sensitive individuals. The more there are, the better the potential Force ability of the being. Nobody interrupted. Everyone listened attentively. Force-sensitive beings are capable of harnessing it to perform acts of great skill and agility, as well as control and shape the world around them. Sometimes, this talent was described as possessing a strong aura of the Force, and it's possible the 2 traits were connected. Aizawa listened as attentively as he could, to later give a detailed report to Nezu about the girl. Followers of the light side strove to live in harmony with the world around them, acting with wisdom and logic rather than anger and rashness. To achieve harmony with the light side of the Force, its practitioners often meditated to rid themselves of their emotions, particularly negative emotions like aggression, anger, and hatred, as these brought acceptance of the dark side. Jedi have always referred to 2 sides of the Force, the dark side and the light side. The dark side wasn't made up of parts or specific abilities of the Force. The dark and light sides of the Force existed within the life form that used them, made from our emotions. A follower of the light side seeks to live in harmony with what surrounds them. Mutual trust, respect, and the ability to form alliances gave the Jedi their strength to face the Sith. In contrast, a follower of the dark side was only interested in themselves. Overpowering a living creature using the Force with anger, fear, or another emotion was the dark side. Refraining and clearing oneself of their emotions was the light side. The use of the dark side of the Force was forbidden in the Jedi Order and was strictly considered the domain of the Sith. As the hours passed and they arrived at UA, the director asked the teachers to gather. Izumi joined them, concentrating before heading out to the softball field, where her hyperspace droid had brought her ship. She rummaged inside and pulled out many documents and several holocrons, which began to display strange dates in front of everyone. Midichlorians, microscopic symbiotic organisms that connect the living force, the energy of all life, to the cosmic force, another aspect of the energy field known as the Force, are born from the wellspring of life. Birth of the Father, the Son, and the Daughter, bearers of the Force who come to live on Mortis, some kind of satellite, shaped like a double pyramid, one straight and one upside down. Billions to millions of years before the Republican era, lava flows on Dagobah, forming Mount Daga before disappearing to allow the flourishing of non-intelligent life. A primitive species lives on the planet Abednedo, eventually evolving into the intelligent Abednedo species. Pre-hyperspace travel, Batu, a planet on the edge of the Outer Rim territories, is colonized millennia after a great cataclysm results in the destruction and eventual petrification of giant trees. An ancestral species invents the hyperdrive after studying purgal hyperspace travel. Then, about 27,000 years ago, a human civilization had developed on the planet Empress Teta. Over the next 20 millennia, the Dai Bendu, the religious group that would be attributed with the first holocrons, exists as the precursor to the Jedi Order. Seeking to preserve peace and justice, an individual who became known as the first Jedi founds the Jedi Order on Hch-2. Shortly after the foundation of the Jedi Order, the world Ilum is discovered by a Jedi explorer through Force-assisted hyperspace navigation and is eventually identified by reconnaissance teams as a source of Kyber crystals, news that led to the sealing of Illuminated under orders from the Jedi High Council. The first Jedi Temple is built on the rocky islands of Hch-2. Shortly after, the Jedi Village is also built on the Temple Island. After a few years of discovering the crystal caves on Ilum, a Jedi temple is erected over the entrance, becoming a pilgrimage site for Jedi of all ages. A Padawan ceremony called the Assembly is established. Ilum's Holnesh Canyon outpost is established to study a periodic force anomaly. The Kenro comet is predicted to trace its route towards the core worlds. Before it can enter the mid-rim, members of the Jedi Order join together and divert it, although several Jedi lost their lives or minds in the process. About 10,000 years ago, the Galactic Republic is formed. Thousands of years before the Clone Wars. The Temple of Kyber is built on the cold, desert moon of Jeddah. The Zygarian slave empire is defeated by Jedi Knights. A rogue Jedi leads a group of Force users in search of greater power by embracing the dark side of the Force. They split from the Jedi Order during the schism known as the 100-Year Darkness, becoming the Sith rivals. Defeated, they are exiled by the Jedi Order and flee from known space to Korrivan. Unknown to others, the Sith on Korrivan are rebuilt and await their revenge. Meanwhile, tombs and massive Sith temples are built in a place known as the Valley of the Dark Lords. Additional time, the Sith Empire, with the use of slaves, competes for control of the galaxy. Battling the Jedi, they build gargantuan superweapons powered by Kyber crystals. The Sith, known as Lord Monin, is trained by Lady Shah. Eventually, Monin kills his master and travels the galaxy perfecting his ship. His acolytes and he are slain by a pair of Jedi during their destruction of a city using a superweapon, although Monin's spirit survives through his mask. His story is considered heretical by the Sith and is suppressed. Before the time of the Galactic Republic, the lushly forested planet Mustafar is inhabited by the outsider Lady Corvax, who lives in harmony with the native Mustafarians along with her husband. The latter dies as a result of an attack on Mustafar, leading Corvax to steal one of the most sacred Mustafarian relics, the Bright Star, in an attempt to use it in a ritual to resurrect her beloved. The ritual fails. Instead, the energies of the relic called the Bright Star push Mustafar into a new orbit, reducing the world to an unbalanced and chaotic state. A volcanic wasteland is created as the small Mustafar struggles between the giant gas giants Lafrani and Jestefad. As a result, Sith in search of secrets to eternal life are drawn to the planet. 5000 BBY. Shortly after the unification wars of Empress Teta, the Great Hyperspace War is fought according to the tales of Keldruma. The Sith wage war against the Jedi and the Galactic Republic, which sees the fall of the Republic's capital, Coruscant, a city-world located in the galactic core. This allows the Sith to build a sanctuary on the planet, exuding the power of the dark side. However, the Jedi eventually repel the Sith and reclaim Coruscant. According to the tales of Keldruma, the Great Jedi Library on Ossus is established as the physical embodiment of Jedi knowledge. The Great Temple is built by the Massassi on Yavin 4. During the time of the Old Republic, the Mandalorian Jedi War occurs. The Mandalorian Crusades occur as part of the Mandalorian Jedi War. Ubduria is devastated by Mandalorians. Mandalore is reduced to a barren wasteland in the final stages of the Mandalorian Jedi War. 4000 BBY. The civilization of intelligent reptilians who came to be known as the Ancients begins to appear on a planet that became known as the Mid-Rim world of Naboo. According to the tales of Keldruma, Ossus is devastated by the Kron supernova, which was triggered by Naga Sadow. Approximate date. The Four Masters build the Jedi Temple atop the ruins of the Sith Sanctuary on Coruscant in an attempt to contain and eliminate its power, as well as harness the Force intensity in the area. Approximate date. Eventually, a cataclysmic event known later as the Great Scourge of Malachor occurs. Jedi Knights from the era of the Old Republic discover the combat station and confront the Sith. All participants are petrified by the superweapon, including a witch who led the Sith forces, although an entity known as the Presence remained in a Sith holocron within the Temple of Malachor. After that, Jedi were forbidden to travel to Malachor, and information about the location was removed from the Jedi archives. By the time of the Great Scourge, the design of the crossguard lightsaber had become common among practitioners of Makashi. Izumi sighed. I left this planet several years ago and I lived through a period called the Clone Wars. It has been more than 1,000 years since the Sith were known until a Force user, who would later become a Jedi Knight, named Anakin Skywalker, was found by Qui-Gon Jinn and his Padawan, and later Jedi Council Master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, on a desert planet called Tatooine. They were attacked by a person named Darth Maul. Qui-Gon died, and his Padawan Obi-Wan was named a Jedi Council Master for defeating a dark side Force user and became Anakin's master. 10 years passed for Anakin when the pacifist senator from Naboo, Padme Nabir, joined the Republic Senate on Coruscant, and 3 years ago, Padme, Anakin, Obi-Wan, along with many others, like my master, Kirna Hash and I, experienced an attack by separatist forces on a planet called Geonosis, where the Battle of Geonosis took place. It was the first battle between the Confederacy of Independent Systems and the Galactic Republic, a conflict that marked the beginning of the Clone Wars. This would be the first major combat for the Grand Army of the Republic, which had lacked an army because, well, everything was peaceful until Darth Maul appeared and killed Qui-Gon, causing Count Dooku to turn to the dark side and Maul's master, Darth Sidious, to seduce Count Dooku. Darth Sidious was a Sith Lord who hid in plain sight, turned out to be the last Chancellor of the Republic, Sheev Palpatine, who commanded both armies, resulting in what is now called the Galactic Empire. What exactly happened at this Battle of Geonosis, Midoriya? Nezu asked. It was a great conjunction of things, Izumi admitted, scratching her head, distressed. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker were investigating someone who was repeatedly attempting to take the life of Senator Padme Nabir, leading them to the discovery of the Separatist Army and the Separatist Movement, which was a political movement that wanted to destabilize the Republic for being corrupt, under the command of the Sith, Darth Tyrannus, which is the alias of Count Dooku. When Obi-Wan discovered that everything would lead to a planet called Kamino, he discovered that a Jedi Master, named Sifo Dyas, had planned the creation of a clone army and already being on Geonosis, they called as many Jedi as they could, but the Separatist droids outnumbered them, and many died, with at least 20 survivors, until Master Yoda arrived with reinforcements, in the form of the clones from Kamino. Thus began the Clone Wars, to eliminate the Separatists and maintain Republican stability, with the Jedi part of the Clone Republic army. It was 3 years of long war, then. Everything became strange. Izumi began to shake her head, trying to understand it. The fearsome Separatist general, Grievous, enters the Chancellor's office, kidnaps him, is taken along with Dooku. Obi-Wan defeats Grievous, Anakin kills Count Dooku, the Chancellor is rescued, and days later. A tear rolled down her cheek. The clones. They killed the Jedi. All the UA teachers and 1A members opened their eyes and mouths in disbelief. I killed several of my comrades in arms. After witnessing the death of my master, I fled and kept fleeing from one planet to another, away from the galaxy, as much as I could, until I reached a ship that my master had prepared for me, which brought me to this planet. I arrived at the USJ, and you know the rest. No one said anything until Nezu spoke. Being a hero and being a Jedi are not very different things, Midoriya-chan. I want you to stay at UA, learn from the teachers, keep doing good. I accept, she said quickly. The door opened, the last Jedi turned and saw a woman she hadn't seen in many years. Izumi-chan. Hello, she said, smiling, hugging the woman who gave her life. I'm back, Okasan. And now, I'll stay by your side, forever. I won't leave again like that. Midoriya-san, her daughter arrived in her ship and helped the students of Class 1A. We have decided to allow her to enter the hero department, without needing an extra test, Nezu said seriously. She showed many skills of what she insists on calling the Force and a great heart, by helping our students, said Aizawa. Her dream has always been to be a hero, said Inko smiling, taking her by the shoulders. And now she can be. So yes, I accept that Izumi-chan be part of UA. Jin's eyes opened wide when he was quickly handed a couple of bags, with white shirts, ties, skirts, long black stockings, and standard school shoes. His childhood dream was coming true. Thanks to the hero known as Cementos, a series of apartment buildings were constructed, 2 for the heroics class, 2 for support class, 2 for business class, and 2 for general education class. I love that we have these dorms now, exclaimed Mina happily as they all sat in the lounge after decorating their rooms. It's like being in the Peacekeeper, surrounded by clones, admirals, and my teacher, compared Izumi with a smile, dressed in a red shirt and brown shorts. What's the Peacekeeper? Asked Bakugo, his conversations with her being brief lately, as he regretted how he had treated her in their early childhood and understood she had a very different upbringing. While he was barely training to be a hero, she had been a heroine on many planets and never needed a kosei. The door to the street opened, revealing Aizawa still bandaged and the principal. It was Aizawa who spoke. It's good that you're relaxing because in 3 weeks, on April 4th, the battle will begin. The battle? Asked a confused Shoto, Ochako, Momo, and Izumi. Don't you mean? Began Bakugo, a smile appearing on his face. More villains? Asked a terrified Mineta, clutching his head in desperation and terror. The UA Sports Festival is approaching, said Aizawa. I keep forgetting this is a normal school. Cursed Rikido, hitting the bottom of his right fist against his left palm. Wouldn't that be a perfect opportunity for villains to attack? Asked Mezzo, concerned. On the contrary, since we're continuing with the festival, it means the school trusts that everything will be in order, said Aizawa. Security will be tripled. But you should be thinking about how the festival represents a great opportunity for you. In the pre-Kosei era, the Olympics brought excitement, but now it's the UA Sports Festival. This festival will allow all of you to show professional heroes what you're capable of. It's normal for second and third year students from different academies to be recruited by heroes to gain experience in the real world. It's very normal for many of them to get stuck in the assistant stage, said Kaminari. And you seem just like that kind of idiot, Kaminari, teased Jiro. But before all that, Aizawa began before handing Izumi a folder, inside of which she found a pen and a sheet of paper, along with a t-shirt and shorts. The principal wants you to design your heroine suit and please put these on. Everyone will come, the teachers and us. We're going to see Midoriya, doing both the entrance exam and the entrance exam I gave them at the same time. Let's go to Alpha Training Ground. Izumi went to put on the blue t-shirt and pants, both with white symbols, taking a while to realize they were the letters U, on the shirt, and A, on the pants. Some time later, the students of Class 1A and the teachers were in a fake city, watching Izumi from a safe area. Start running and look for obstacles or robotic villains, Midoriya-san, requested the principal. Izumi did as asked. She was very fast, thanks to the Force. Soon she was surrounded by 3 robots worth 1 point each, and she faced them with martial arts. For the Akani race, battle is a means of communication. It is an art, in the truest sense of the word, she said, delivering strong blows, denting and smashing the metal in seconds. Duels among the Akani are rituals and do not allow the use of armor or anything that restricts movement. Akani culture believe that to know someone completely, you must fight them, she said, delivering powerful punches. As she punched, she moved her torso and leg forward, putting more force into the impact, sending the robots flying and destroying them. It is a form of self-expression, a means of communication akin to art. During the era of the Old Republic, Akani fire dancers combined Akani fighting techniques with exotic weapons, like ritual marks, merging the two in a way similar to a dance, she said, disarming a pair of robots in front of her with telekinesis. Disarming a droid is more complicated for me. For any Jedi, just imagine being on the battlefield, blaster bolts flying back and forth, hearing your clone soldiers falling. Izumi reached a 50-meter race track with a robot worth 1 point on her right. She heard Director Nezu speaking to her through a communicator. "We want to see how fast you are in this part of the test, Midoriya-chan, so you'll have this friendly 1-point robot as your opponent, as he is the fastest." "Understood, Director," said Izumi, seeing a traffic light. Oh yes, she still remembered them. Red, then it turned yellow, and finally green. Now. She ran, channeling force energy into her legs, being 10 times faster than usual. "Now, please go to the long jump section," requested the director. She did, and performed the same trick again, jumping very high and landing a good distance away. "You almost jumped as high as me," exclaimed a amazed Tsuyu. "And your distance and mine are similar. To your right, there's a softball, stand in the circle and send it as far as you can," said Aizawa. Izumi did so, adding a great deal of physical force to her arm and using force push to send it into the air. 1,000 meters, although you won't be able to use your suits in the sports festival, but we'll have yours ready just for the field work. "Understood," she said as she walked away from the softball field towards where she felt the Class 1A kids were, seeming to want to meet her. And, sighing but with a smile on her face, she bowed. "Thank you very much for accepting me into your academy." A tall young man with blonde, straight hair styled to the left, with bangs hanging over his right eye. His irises were burgundy, his pupils white, along with a mischievous smile and a tilt of his head, giving him a rather disdainful look. "You did very well, girl," said Nato with a smile. "Thank you, dude," said Izumi with a smile, feeling the boy's emotions and finding a surprise. The midichlorians in humanity had evolved and created the Kosais, except in her, where they and her force were classic, bringing her back to the basic force. She learned her Kosei and saw him, reaching out his hand towards her. Izumi gave him her hand and used one of the powers of the light side. Nato's eyes widened in shock. When he copied a Kosei, he could see in his mind the use of that Kosei, but he just felt empty. He just felt himself losing his own Kosei, instead of copying hers? Did she do it? How did she do it? When Izumi continued on her way, 20 seconds passed before he felt his Kosei again. "I'll have to. Be careful with her. It'll be interesting to see the fights." Finally, the long-awaited day arrived for everyone. The UA Sports Festival was here, and the academy was packed with civilians and heroes alike. Teachers from all courses, except for hero studies, had urged their students to train hard. To use their quirks in every situation, running or speeding up, jumping or finding ways to jump, and using them in simulated battles. "It's time to move to our first event, Midnight," a teacher with blue hair adorned with many strands shooting out in various directions, bright blue eyes, a red mask, wearing a second skin cream-colored outfit with BDSM elements, announced. A screen lit up behind her, and a roulette wheel started spinning rapidly before stopping. The obstacle course. The track makes an almost 4-kilometer loop around the stadium. All classes participate, she pointed with a whip to her right. Everyone understood that the race began at that door, where a light turned on. Then another and finally, the third and last light turned on, and everyone ran. The hallway was very narrow, and everyone got stuck. But soon, those with telekinesis, like Uraka Ochako, Yanagi Reiko, and Midoriya Izumi, got rid of the problem by floating above everyone's heads and running or continued flying. Everyone escaped, but soon, a boy with red and white hair surpassed them all. It was Todoroki Shoto, son of the number 2 hero, Endeavor. The boy froze the feet of several other competitors. But Bakugo Katsuki, a blonde boy with red eyes and explosions coming from his hands, soared ahead through the air. Yaoyorozu Momo, a black-haired girl with a long strand falling over her right eye and a messy ponytail, created a bar to climb and escape. Mineta Minoru, a small boy with hair shaped like a cluster of grapes, used his hairball spheres to jump on and escape the ice. "It won't be so easy for you, Todoroki. Now you'll taste my ultimate killing move." But a giant robot punched him and sent him flying. "Mineta!" a boy shouted as he saw his friend flying. He had certain peculiarities that made him the perfect blend of an athlete and a scholar: perfectly combed blue hair, glasses, and many exhaust pipes coming from his calves. "Ida Tenya. The Trials robots," he said, identifying them. "The 0-point robots. Come on. Come on, Izumi," she said to herself, quite intimidated by the robots. But she clenched her fists and tried to be braver. She drew calmness and courage from where she didn't have them. Jedi don't feel fear. If Anakin Skywalker, the great fearless Jedi, the hero of the Clone Wars, could handle tanks on the mission to Felucia, then you can too. It's just about disarming them. Then she looked at herself. No. I'll take too long to disarm them. She moved her hands as if she were a mime, towards the right, and 3 robots veered off course, colliding with 3 others and destroying them. That move stopped Todoroki Shoto from making his own move. Katsuki flew over the robots with his explosions. Kyoka used her headphone connectors, which came out from her earlobes, to release sound waves and disable one of the robots. Tokoyami had a crow's head, but his quirk was a dark entity that emerged from his body and helped him climb. Hanta used the tapes coming from his elbows to tie himself to a robot and continue over it. The first barrier seemed like child's play, Professor Present Mike said as the students reached the second phase, which consisted of chasms and solid blocks of earth with ropes running through them. If you fall, you're out, so start crawling to get to the other side, the drop. A girl from Class 1A, with frog-like features, just rolled her eyes. It's just a glorified tightrope walk, she said and jumped, landing on the rope, which she gripped with both hands and began to crawl. Izumi turned, jumped, and used the force push to reach the other side. Katsuki used his explosions. Todoroki slid across a rope as if it were ice. Hanta used his tapes to reach the other side. After that, teams of up to 4 people were formed to acquire score-marked tapes and thus disqualify a large number of people, leading to the combat trial. Some people decided to leave. Among them, a boy from their classroom named Ojiro. Be careful. He warned his classmates from Class 1A. That boy with purple hair, he has some kind of power. I talked to him and he replied with something. Then, my mind was covered in a strange fog. I heard the voice of the boy with purple hair, and my body moved on its own. Don't talk to him. Ojiro walked away. The girl who saved the students from 1A, in USJ, Midoriya Izumi, said the hero Present Mike. From the General Department, Hitoshi Shinso. If your opponent can't move, leaves the ring, or says I surrender, then you win, Cementos explained. I surrender, huh? Said Shinso. Did you get that, Midoriya Izumi? We're here to show what we have and give it our all. However, that monkey surrendered very easily, it's regrettable, don't you think? You're despicable. And her gaze went blank. A smile adorned Shinso's face. Now. Lose for me. Shinso's quirk is enormously powerful, said Aizawa, who was the secondary commentator. But it's impossible for him to demonstrate its effectiveness, facing the entrance exam robots. It must be great to have been blessed by the heavens, right, Midoriya Izumi? Telekinesis. I wish I were born with a quirk like that, said Shinso. One that would allow me to demonstrate my power and spirit. Instead, I have this. Izumi raised her hand and sent Shinso flying, knocking him out of the battle arena. How? I trained. In a monk's order, I learned certain brain tricks through meditation, she explained, with a smile on her face. Against any other opponent, your quirk would be dangerous, but I've trained myself to avoid things like brainwashing or telepathy and to fight in environments that would be unbearable, from the coldest cold to the hottest heat. You caught me off guard for a second. Midoriya Izumi passes the first match, said Present Mike. The next competitor stepped onto the battlefield. He has a fast capture quirk, from the hero department, Sarah Hanta. And the dual quirk of opposites, with ice and fire, from the hero department, Todoroki Shoto. I don't feel like I can win, but Hanta threw his tapes and tied up his opponent. I won't lose without showing what I have. He began to drag his enemy, only for everything to freeze in a second. Sorry about that, said Todoroki, seeing what he had done. I'm not focused, I'm thinking about other things. You were very fast. I didn't even see when you activated the ice, said a frozen Hanta, on an ice pillar. Denki, the electricity guy, lost in seconds against Ibara, whose hair was replaced by vines due to her mutation quirk. The fight between Hatsume Mei, from the support department, and Ida Tenya, Izumi's classmate, was bizarre. Mei gave Tenya 2 attachments, a device to be faster and some lightweight leg devices. She spent the whole test, narrating her inventions, and not just those, but even a cartridge gun, which released a net from which Tenya couldn't escape and was embarrassingly eliminated from the competition. Mei admitted she had only used Ida for her promotion. The fight between Mina and Aoyama was quick. Quick against Aoyama's laser shots. Quick against Mina's acid-fueled movement, skating like an Olympic skater, who approached Aoyama, covered his belt with acid, and hit him on the chin, knocking him out of the battlefield. If anyone had to describe Bakugo Katsuki, then the words powerful and cruel would be ideal. His method of fighting Uraka Ochako cast him in a bad light in the eyes of professional heroes. On the contrary, his rival, Ochako, seemed more like a victim and was seen in the light of a girl facing an almost impossible challenge. When Ochako demonstrated that Katsuki's explosions caused debris to form, she made them float and then released them on him. But Katsuki was powerful and destroyed all the meteorites with a single shot, at which point Ochako surrendered. Even so, Katsuki shouted at her not to surrender to anyone or anything, and that he didn't win because of his quirk, but because she let herself be overwhelmed. He appreciated Round Face, as he called the brown-haired girl, and swore to the heroes that Ochako would be a future top 5 hero. Kirishima hardened his body, while Tetsu turned into metal, and that prolonged the fight, ending in an arm wrestling match, which Kirishima won. Momo didn't stand still, waiting for the other tenon of Tokoyami's body to attack her, and created a shield, barely resisting Dark Shadow's onslaughts. But every time Dark Shadow pushed her back, she took more steps forward, avoiding disqualification by staying within the limits. Inko hugged her daughter tightly, suffocating her with affection. "Oh, my beautiful girl. I'm so happy to see you again, Izumi-chan. I'm also glad to be back after so much in the galaxy and with the Jedi Order," Izumi said, her smile tinged with sadness. "What happened?" asked Inko, surprised to see her daughter again, searching for the Jedi teacher but finding no trace. "We got involved in a war against a political group called the Separatists, who believed the Galactic Republic was corrupt. I've been fighting them since Master Yoda brought the clone troops to the Battle of Geonosis," she explained. Her mother nodded, choosing not to ask specifically about Geonosis, assuming it was a planet. The war ended when Anakin Skywalker, the hero of the Clone Wars, killed the Separatist leader, Count Dooku. Then, Chancellor Palpatine claimed the Jedi tried to kill him, attempted a takeover, and crowned himself Emperor after the clones turned against us. They killed my master, all Jedi generals were slain. I am one of the last survivors. She shed tears. Back at UA, the Class 1A students chatted nervously about being recognized. Some felt intimidated. Aizawa entered. "Good morning, everyone." "Good morning, Aizawa-sensei." They chimed. "It's time for you all to gain work experience with professional heroes. Most of you have caught the attention of pros, which is unusual for first-year students like you." Aizawa explained about hero offices and their rankings, mentioning that even those without nominations must go for fieldwork. He mentioned the students' prior combat experience at USJ. While her peers succumbed to fear, Izumi recalled Master Yoda's words, "Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering." Aizawa continued, "Unfortunately, you're already deeply involved in the world of heroes. But you're still inexperienced and will observe seasoned heroes in action." The door opened, and Midnight entered, garnering attention. "If you don't take this seriously," she warned, listing heroes with regrettable names like Freaky Dragon and Crazy Bird. Midnight advised the students to reflect on what kind of hero they wanted to become. "Aizawa sets a good example," Midnight said, referring to his hero name, Eraserhead, given by Present Mike, symbolizing his covert approach to heroism. "Think about how your future will look like," said Aizawa. "The image you project onto civilians and other heroes will come from the type of hero costumes you have in your names." Midnight distributed small boards. "You have 15 minutes to present your names. Take it seriously because even if you change them in the future, you might get stuck with these names forever. I will be your judge, determining whether these names are good or bad." "I'll go first," said Aoyama, holding up the board for everyone to see. "I cannot stop twinkling." "It's my turn," said Mina happily, stepping forward. "I'll be Alien Queen." "Oh my goodness," said Midnight, frightened, hugging herself, traumatized by the Alien movie series. "Do you want to be like those black aliens with elongated heads and acidic saliva? Think it over again." "Darn," she said, now discouraged. Because of how unusual the first names were, this all seemed to turn into some kind of comedy routine. And no one could shake that idea from their minds. "Midnight-sensei, I think it's my turn," said Tsuyu. Midnight nodded. The frog girl stepped forward. "I chose it from the start. Rainy season hero, Froppy." "My turn," said a confident Eijiro, stepping forward. "I'll be Red Riot." "Are you referring to the retired hero Crimson Riot?" asked Midnight. "He's my role model. I heard him once talking about being a knight and a hero in the 22nd century," assisting the community besides beating up criminals, and I decided I wanted to be like him. You're taking the name of someone you admire, and that will put a lot of weight on your shoulders, said Midnight, placing her hands on her waist and smiling at Eijiro. At Red Riot. Someone you admire. Thought Izumi, as she closed her eyes, trying to find inspiration in the force for a heroine name. She received something, glimpsing a future still distant. Flash forward. I name you the Sword of the Jedi. Yours is a life without rest, and you will never know peace, though you will be blessed by the peace you bring to others. End of flash forward. She opened her eyes inspired by that woman. Luke Skywalker's niece. And Luke was Anakin's son. She wrote down what she saw before being pulled into a new vision. Flashback. She saw a human man, a Jedi. She then noticed his lightsaber and recognized his style was very ancient. He was a member of the original order, the order that used both light and darkness in the Force, the Jedi Order of Tython. As they observed the world around them, they saw two moons in the sky, the bright Ashla and the dark Bogan, and understood the dual nature of the Force, light and darkness. End of flashback. She advanced to the front, with a smile on her lips. The protective sword of Japan. I am Ashla. Very good, Midoriya-chan, said Midnight smiling. They finished after almost an hour and a half of presenting and changing names until Midnight was satisfied. I'll go with Mount Lady, said Mineta. Mineta-chan, are you thinking of perverted things again? Said Tsuyu, passing behind him. I'll go with Gunhead, said Ochako, throwing fists in the air. I thought you wanted to be a rescue hero like 13 Sensei, said Momo, surprised by the brunette's choice. That's my ultimate goal, but I can progress further and become better, by adopting various styles and not just focusing on my specialty, which, clearly, would be rescue, said Ochako. My fight with Bakugo-kun made me realize that. You're strong, round face, said Katsuki, smiling. Kindly? Whoever told you that you were weak will have to swallow a disappointment the size of a house. I'll go with Bastionist. I think. I'll go with the dragon heroine Ryukyu, said Izumi, reading the heroine's profile and checking the names that came up on her list. She has a high number of cases solved, first tries to calm the situation with her enemies before engaging in combat. She strikes a balance between rescue and combat. When the day of practice arrived, Aizawa accompanied them to the train station. Do you all have your costumes? Obviously, you should only wear them in public under the supervision of your nominating teachers, and you can only perform heroic acts under their supervision. Remember not to lose your costumes or anything like that. Understood, said Mina, happy to have more experience in this case. Keep that understood under control, Ashido, Aizawa requested. And mind your manners, you are representing UA, and now, go to your corresponding trains. Welcome to my office, Ashla-san, said the heroine. The self-proclaimed Sword of the Jedi carefully looked at her teacher for that week, blonde hair down to her chin, tied back with a headband, a long bang over the right side of her face covering her eye. She has narrow, golden eyes, slanted inward, with slitted pupils and notably sharp teeth, these intentionally reptilian aspects as a reference to her kosei. Her hero costume consisted of a traditional dark red qipao with a pale green scale border around the shoulders, seemingly only cut on the left side, and knee-high boots, a strap around the exposed thigh. She wears a matching green headband with 4 large pale purple claws attached, covering the right side of her face, and a set of small dragon wings protruding from the back of her head, with a series of cartilage piercings with golden spikes adorning her left ear. I hope you're ready, because I'm going to shape you into a high-ranking hero. I'm as calm as I can be, Ryukyu-sensei, and I hope to learn a lot from you, she said as she went to change. She returned, now wearing her new hero clothes, a light gray kimono-style shirt and brown pants, with her belt, carrying her lightsabers. She couldn't help but wear clothes as similar as possible to her era as a Jedi Knight, and hoped to gain some useful experience in this until she named herself a Jedi Master. Her ultimate goal was to establish some kind of Force-sensitive hero academy or a group of emotionally sensitive heroes, something resembling the Order, and this was her first step. That bought her a few minutes to throw a luminous grenade and surpass her rivals. In the end, Izumi finished first. Tokoyami finished second. And Bakugo finished third.